العاصم المصطفى محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. When we look at the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and it is one of the lengthy and very interesting stories in the Holy Quran. A lot of it is scattered throughout different surahs, but there's much to learn about Prophet Musa alayhi salam. From the beginning, as when Pharaoh commanded to kill all the male newborns, and that they began a savage execution of the babies. And you see the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam get ilham, get inspiration. And this is actually one of the arguments that we have when we say that, not only do prophets get inspiration, others also get inspirations. Sometimes like the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. So there's no problem of an imam getting inspiration as well. So Prophet Musa's mother is told, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى أَنْ أَرْضِعْهِ, to suckle Prophet Musa alayhi salam. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ, and when you fear for him, throw him, cast him in the river. This is a command that Allah had to save Prophet Musa alayhi salam. That usually a mother, especially a newborn, they are very careful of that newborn. Which mother do you know is willing to cast that newborn in the river? They must have lots of belief. Then Quran says and promises, Inna raduhu ilayk, we will give him back to you. There's one promise, and that is, indeed we will return him to you. This promise she saw a little bit afterwards. And those who have read the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, they know a little bit afterwards, this baby was floating down, and you see that Lady Asiya, one of the very holy ladies who was a believer, and they were waiting, and they look at this child, and he's very cute, for example, or they love him, and they take him in, the wife of Pharaoh. And at that time, Pharaoh, even though they say that he had Bani Israel, attributes, this baby. But in a way, she speaks to Pharaoh and he gives an exception. So it's okay, for example, for him to be here. But now problem is, this baby is waiting to be nursed and does not accept anyone until finally, in a way, they bring back and they find the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, and she is the one who feeds him. So immediately she saw this promise of Allah. So this is one promise that Allah makes. Inna raduhu ilayk. We promise. We will bring him back to you. And she saw this, and it didn't take much. But then there's another promise that Allah makes in Quran to the mother of Prophet Musa alayhi salam that took a while for it to be fulfilled. What promise is this? وَجَعِلُوهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ, and we will make him of the messengers. How long did it take, I ask you, Prophet Musa alayhi salam to become a messenger of Allah? He had to go through a lot. He was raised, if you look at the stories and the narrations and the books about Prophet Musa alayhi salam, it was a while that he was raised as in the palace of Pharaoh. And the interesting thing about Prophet Musa alayhi salam, he overthrew that same person who took him in the commands of Allah. And later on, you see in the story, that Prophet Musa alayhi salam sometimes would leave and come out of town, for example, come out of the palace and leave and observe. And he was so saddened to see the Bani Israel, the children of, the believers at that time, to see them being abused, tortured, see him be discriminated against. It hurt him and harmed him. So eventually what happens is he defends, one of the Bani Israel in a fight, and he was strong, and he hits that person in such a way that it kills him. Now they expose him, and Prophet Musa has to run away from Egypt, and runs until he goes, he's not a prophet yet, until he goes and finds, the two ladies that were trying to water their animals at that time, And he waits and he asks them, and you know how the story is. He finds out they are the daughters of Prophet Shu'aib. And later on, because of his strength, because of his honor, later on, Prophet Shu'aib alayhi salam sees him and wants and asks him, which one of my two daughters do you want to marry? And he lives maybe 10 years, maybe 12, 13 years there, and still is not a prophet. And that staff that he has, the tradition has the staff that Musa alayhi salam later on uses to make a snake, later on uses to part the Red Sea. That staff is from Prophet Shu'aib. He gives him the staff. Then he goes towards, he says finally, after 10, 13 years here, now he wants to go back to his people. And that is when unexpectedly, where he was looking for fire, for example, then he becomes Kalimullah, and Allah tells him, to remove his na'layk, for example, his sandals, that he is in this holy area, and that Allah blesses him with prophethood. So that promise was one that happened much later. So we said about two promises. One, to the mother, that you will reunite with him. Two, that he will be of the Mursaleen. And then the Quran mentions that فَرَدَدْنَاهُ إِلَىٰ أُمِّهِ كَيْ تَقَرَّ عَيْنُهَا, so that she can become happy, so that we restored to him, so she can be comforted and not grieve. وَلَا تَحْزَنْ. And then it says, وَلِتَعْلَمَ أَنَّ وَعْدَ اللَّهِ حَقٌّ وَلَكِنَّ أَكْثَرُهُمْ لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. And know that the promise of Allah is a reality. If we promise you, Allah promises you that you will be reunited, it will be true. If Allah promises that He will be of the Mursaleen, He will be of the prophets. Brothers and sisters, Allah also has promised us, when we read verses of the Holy Quran, about that the land will be inherited by the righteous, that Allah has favored us, as we have in the Quran, and He desires to show His favor to those who were oppressed in the land and make them leaders and inheritors of the world. That Allah has also promised of the faraj and the dhuhur of Ahlul Bayt and the dhuhur of the Imam of the age. So how Allah does maybe sometimes delays this second wa'd, which was Prophet Musa becoming of the Mursaleen, Allah can also delay this promise, but eventually this will happen. Even if the time of the world is so few, Allah will extend it to make sure that the dhuhur of the Imam of the age takes place. So therefore, we look at this promise that Allah has given us, and we are waiting for this promise. And hopefully, the month of Sha'ban is a month for us to pledge our allegiance to the Imam of the age, to reinstill hope, and not to have despair that it has been 1,000 years, for example, or more, that he has not come, that we still have hope, because this is a promise that Allah has made. And Allah never goes against His promise, just like the story of Prophet Musa alayhi salam. Therefore, you see, our question tonight is that this promise that Allah has given us, and we know that we have to play an active role to be a muntadir of the Imam. To wait for him doesn't mean to just sit here and wait, for example, for dinner to be served or to catch a flight. Intidar means to do something. Just like, for example, when you have guests and you keep looking, for example, you prepare your house for those guests and you clean the house, you get the food prepared, and you keep looking outside. Are they here? Are they not here? Hopefully you're this type of those who don't actually respect the guests. You're not those who wait until the guests show up and then you want to call, for example, DoorDash, for example. Hopefully you're those that you get ready for the guests. That means in the same way intidar. It means you're preparing yourself just like a person is preparing for their guests. They're waiting, they're looking and checking. Are we in this status that you are preparing and getting ready and looking for the signs and being prepared for the faraj? Or are you of those who are just waiting and not, paying attention? Quran mentions, if we want to be one of the companions of the Imam of the age, Quran very beautifully tells us what qualities we must have and what qualities do we have to build in ourselves. Many people say, I want to be of the 313. The 313 are the best of the best. Many of them are ladies, are women of the 313. 40 or 50 of them are ladies. We say we want to be of the 313. But can we just pray and say, Allah, I want to be of the best of the best? Because they're not only limited 300 companions, there's thousands of companions of the Imam. But can I say I want to be of the best, but not prepare myself and not be ready? That during the occultation I do absolutely nothing. I don't even make dua for the Imam. I don't even work for the Imam. But then I expect myself, now that he is doing dhuhr, I'm going to, for example, now be the best. When I see oppression, I am too afraid to speak against it. I always say, no, with these dhalimeen, these oppressors, you should work out a deal with them, for example. Let's live our lives in a very comforting way. And then I expect that when the dhuhr, the advent happens, that now I'm going to fight for justice all the time. We had a martial arts teachers in the community. He's many years ago, some of the brothers, they had this martial arts instructor. He was very good, exceptionally good. And he would train and practice, with the community in a way that he would say that the way you practice is the way you fight. Because he had so much experience, on the streets and fighting. He says, the same way you practice right now, he says, believe me, that's the same way you will fight. I want to say in the same way, the way that it is in the occultation of how there are those of the scholars, for example, or those of the believers who are fighting against injustice, they will also defend the Imam of the age. But if you see, for example, many people that are afraid today, many people that don't have that iman and faith, how is that revolution just going to take place where now miraculously they're going to sacrifice everything for the Imam? So remember, the way that you practice will be the same way that you will fight. If you practice today and you are prepared today and you take steps today against injustice, you take steps today to spread knowledge of Islam, to call for the Imam, that's one of the duties we have towards him, to call the people to Imam Mahdi. Are they better companions or the one who is at his house and, for example, does not come to the center, for example, and says, I'm just going to worship? Because we have traditions too. It says, the traditions say, one of the things you should do during the time of occultation, luzumul bayt, stay at home, for example. So they take this tradition, for example, and they just stay in the home. Yes, there will be a time period that fitna and corruption will be so high. Yes, you would have to stay at the house. There are time periods, but I don't necessarily think that leaving the house right now is, one of those times right now that you have to stay in the house. But regardless, when we look at the Holy Quran, we see a beautiful ayah that our dear brother recited for us in Surah Ma'idah. The verse is this, is that Allah mentions about those who have left religion. Quran mentions, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, and if you want to, I recommend for you to write this verse down, 554. This is not hard. 555 is which verse? The verse of Walayah that we just said. 555 that we just recited. 554. It's a very popular verse, and maybe you've heard of it. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, man yartadda minkum an deeneh. O you who have believed, whoever of you should revert from his religion. Quran is talking about a group of people who will leave religion, leave deen. فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِي اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ. If you leave religion, Allah will bring another group of people. Allah does not wait for you, for example, to change. If you do not believe, Allah will bring another group of people. The Tafsir Qumi mentions about what this verse is talking about. In Tafsir Qumi it says this: those who have left religion are those people that were at the time of the Prophet and they left Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam alone. He says one of the instances is this: those who have left religion because they have left the instructions of the Prophet, they have left Ghadir. Then when it comes here that فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِي اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ يُحِبُّهُمْ وَيُحِبُّونَ, Allah will bring forth a group of people that Allah loves and they love Allah. There's this relationship between them that Allah loves them and they love Allah. Allah will bring them. Tafsir Qawmi says This has been nazala, this has been revealed for the Imam of the age. I'm not going to say the name. The Imam of the age and also his companions. We have traditions that Imam Ali used this verse too and said this is, for example, in the battle of in Jamal in Basra, he said this is for us, for example. Or the Prophet sometimes used this to point to Salman Farsi, for example, and the people of Salman Farsi. There's also traditions like that. But there's no problem. There's many different instances of those who have left religion. Then Allah brings these true believers that Allah loves them and they love Allah. And there's 4 qualities in this. That from this tafsir that we said, Tafsir Qawmi says this is about Ashabul, the Imam of the age. That they have 4 qualities that I want you tonight to see, do I have? And if I do not have, if I'm lacking someone like me, how do I work on these 4 qualities? The first is this, يُحِبُّهُمْ وَيُحِبُّونَ. The first quality, and this is the essence of man's action, comes from the heart. Man is an individual that if you scare him, you threaten him, he doesn't want to do something that you scare him. But if he loves something, he will do it. He will travel to the other part of the world, for example. He will spend all of his money if he is in love. Love, the heart, is a very precious place for us. And it controls, we can understand all of the other limbs. When we look at this quality of love, we see, and very beautifully in the traditions, that one way we can look at this, as Imam Ali states, is Al-Qalbul Muhib Lillah Yuhibbu Kathiran An-Nasaba Lillah. The heart who loves God greatly desires hardship for His sake. Are we like this? Do you love hardship for Allah? Or do you want it to be easy? Do you want the temperature, for example, the masjid to be 75 degrees exactly, your car exactly? And if it's a little hot, you get upset. If it's cold, if you're in traffic, for example, you say, come to this center, we're going to talk about Imam of age, for example. It's too hard, it's too far, I like easiness. Come, it's the 15th of Sha'ban. Come, we have programs here Thursday night, and only a handful of people come. I remember when I was in the US, and I was maybe 16 years of age. Our friends, we're raised in America, we didn't know much about deen, we're learning and learning. Our friends would go the 15th of Sha'ban, not only is that night blessed, but it is also attributed to the Imam of the age. We would go to a masjid and spend the night there. One of my friends, he was doing sujood, and we just kept saying, MashaAllah, he's doing sujood so long. He kept doing it and doing it, sujood, 15th of Sha'ban. Young, we're like 15, 16, 17, 18. I was like, now that's too long. Now it's hours are going, oh, he's MashaAllah, I've never seen sujood that long. Then we found out that he was asleep. He fell asleep in sujood. We said, MashaAllah, we've never seen anyone worship Allah that long. It's like they say, for example, some of the companions of the Prophet, they would say one night is a night of ruku, one night is night of sujood. They say maybe it's like this, for example. So therefore, a few nights ago, weeks ago, nobody, this was Sha'ban, you know there were programs. We know we had a program here, other masjids had it. But when you love Allah, tradition says you love to sacrifice for Allah. Many of the volunteers in masjids in this center, they all have families, they all have things to do. They all would not like stress, but they sacrifice because they like it. They say, it's my duty. Who else is going to keep this masjid working? Who's going to turn on the lights for the masjid? So therefore, we understand that one of the events to see myself, a litmus test, that do I love Allah? See, are you willing to sacrifice for Allah? Are you willing to give your time for Allah? Are you willing to give your money for Allah? Are you willing to maybe sometimes your honor or be threatened or be scared to help the mazloom, the oppressed for Allah? If you are like this, inshallah, this is one sign that you love Allah and Allah loves you. Then the tradition continues. وَالْقَلْبُ اللَّهِ عَنِ اللَّهِ يُحِبُّ الرَّاحَةَ. And the heart that is heedless of Allah, he forgot Allah, he doesn't have Allah in his heart, he loves raha, easiness. He loves easiness. And we are like this. Unfortunately, look at yourself. How much are you willing to struggle for deen? how much you're willing to sacrifice. And the more you have forgotten God, you want comfort. Unfortunately, instead of studying and taking religion seriously, religion becomes a joke for you, for example. You want to be easy with religion. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam has tradition when we talk about love. The tradition has فَإِنَّ كُلُّ مَنْ خُيِّرَ لَهُ أَمْرًا. There are two decisions that everyone has to make. And if you look at your life, maybe you make thousands of decisions every day. Thousands of decisions. One decision that you make is أمر الدنيا وأمر الآخرة. Throughout the day, if you look, you have so many decisions. Should I do this salah? Should I not do this? Should I remember Allah? Should I say salawat? Should I not do? You keep thinking, should I do this thing that's haram? Should I do? You have so many decisions, thousands of decisions a day. And each time you're saying, should I do this for God or not? Should I relax? Should I take it easy, for example? فَاخْتَارَ أَمْرُ الْآخِرَةِ. So if a person chooses the akhirah, Imam Sadiq says, so you have two choices. If you choose the hereafter upon the world, فَذَلِكَ الَّذِي يُحِبُّ اللَّهِ. That is the person who loves Allah. Know that Allah, every time if you choose akhirat, the hereafter, akhirat, I want to do this. I want to do this ibadat. I want to help this person out. I'm just working. Know that you love Allah. Can a person truly love God and it cannot be shown anywhere? If a person truly loves Allah, you will see his entire lifestyle, his entire world will change. Because he's just trying to do something to get close to God. So this is the first issue that we talk about, that can we be of the companions of the Imam of the age? The first is Allah loves them and they love Allah. So hopefully we can have this trait, inshallah. And see today those who are fighting against injustice, they were willing to sacrifice everything they had so that they can reach Ridwanullah. And if you ask some of them, why are you here? Why are you fighting against such a terrible enemy, for example, against all odds? They say, I am coming here for liqa Allah. I'm coming here to meet Allah. This is where I will find Allah. The second is, this is from verses Quran. Adillatin, so they are humble, ala al-mu'mineen, a'izzatin, ala al-kafirin. Adillah means humility, submissiveness, obedience towards making oneself small, dhaleel. You make yourself humble towards the mu'mineen. And you see this, some people that have lots of belief, sometimes are very powerful people. But when it comes to the believer, they want this, they say, yes, we'll do it, yes. They're very humble to the believer. But then when it comes to those who are a disbeliever, and disbeliever is usually one who is arrogantly fighting against Allah. To those, he is powerful. A'izza means firm, invincible, powerful. Against those who are fighting against God and religion and against Islam, for example. Very powerful against them. Unfortunately, we see cases like this. Sometimes kings of certain countries, the exact opposite. They come, when it comes to the oppressors, they come to powers of this world, they're like this, very humble like this. But then when it comes to mu'mineen believers, then they're like, very powerful against them. It's backwards. But the true believer should be, when it comes to the believers, should be in a way very compassionate, kind, and humble. That we are the service of the believers. And I recommend, again, the volunteers in this masjid. All of you, you should be humble to one another. Especially if you want to tell them something. Remember when Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein alayhi salam, wanted to advise this person that was doing wudu wrong. The story has that they didn't reprimand this old person, for example, because they're young. They said, for example, I'm going to show you wudu, and I want you to see, am I doing it right or no? And the old man says, actually, your wudu is right, my wudu is wrong. To be very humble, to be very gentle with the believers. We're a community. We had the unity picnic so that we can be one family. Many people that traveled here came here, and some are born here. They don't have much of a family because a lot of times the family is over there, or sometimes we have reverts. Their family are not Muslim. So if you like it or not, we're brothers and sisters of one another. While we're here in this world, we're brothers and sisters. We have to be kind to one another. We have to be humble to one another. Nobody likes someone who's arrogant. Nobody likes someone who disrespects them. Remember that we have to be kind, especially to the believers, if you want to be a companion of the Imam of the age, inshallah. Let's recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajal fajr. Some were not listening and they thought the speech is over. We will not allow them to be at ease, because those who are at ease have forgotten Allah, we said. You have to work hard. You have to pay attention and inshallah learn. Write notes and inshallah act upon it. The third quality, so I'm going to ask you, what is the first quality according to, how does this whole, presentation work? First we said that there is a verse of Quran that talked about Surah Ma'idah 5:54. Is somebody, they're paying attention now? 5:54 talked about a group of people who left religion. They'll leave religion. Then Allah says we'll bring a group of people that will replace them. They have 4 qualities. And the tafsir says this has come for the companions of the Imam of the age, those who replace. Those who have left were the people at the time of the Prophet. These people have 4 qualities. 1, we said so far, they love Allah and Allah loves them. What was number 2? They were humble, dhalil. They were humble towards the believers and they were powerful against the disbelievers. And the third quality is this: yujahiduna fi sabilillah. They fight and they strive in the path of God. Now Rasulullah comes to the companions, and it's a very famous story, and he tells them that this battle that you performed is the minor battle, is the jihad that's minor, but the jihad al-akbar, the major battle, is fighting against the desires. Fighting against the desires. Because this is a battle that you do, and we said every time you have throughout the day thousands of decisions. Every time you have to say, Allah, Allah, don't fight against the nafs. Nafs, stop it. Don't look that way. Don't think about that. Don't have, for example, bad idea about this person. Don't backbite. You have to keep telling yourself, keep telling nafs, stop. So you're having this battle within yourself thousands of times each day compared to one battle. But is there a relationship between jihad al-nafs and the other strife? Is there a relationship or not? When that person, as some of those who are at a time, they say that at a time when Saddam attacked Iran, there was a time where people had to go through barbed wire. They're forced, sometimes either on mines, they had to walk on mines or minefields, places that could be mines, or go through barbed wire because that is what it was needed. And one of the fighters said this, that if you do not go through the barbed wire of the nafs, you cannot go through that barbed wire in reality. If you do not fight against yourself to such an extent that you kill the nafs, I'm saying to myself, inshallah, we can be like this, then you cannot expect yourself to be so brave and courageous when it comes in the real world. Because you will be fooled, you'll be scared, you'll be threatened. You say, I can't do it, it's too hard, I'll give up. But that person who inside had always done jihad against himself, and I even tell, sometimes it's interesting, I had a session with children recently in one of the centers in North California. I told them a problem that I see within kids, and I see less of them here, but your parents mainly. But I see that there's a lot of lack of discipline when it comes to children. Lack of adab and mannerisms. That many times you go throughout or you teach or you see communities and you see a lack of respect to the teacher, lack of respect to parents, for example. And this is something that I told them we have to discipline our children. I'm not saying to go and you have to spank them and hit them, whatever, but I did give some guidance. And if you wanted to spank, this is from the Risala. You don't have to do it, but this is the guidance. It's actually very soft. If you want to ask me, it's very soft. You cannot change color in a way. You cannot do it out of anger, for example, in a very nice way, or the father does, in a way you don't have to. I've noticed that a lot of times if you give them prizes, it's much more effective than, trying to spank. But anyways, regardless, however you want to do it, I don't mind how you do it, by example, by giving gifts, by maybe, spanking if you want. Regardless, you have to discipline your child. One of the problems we have is we learn some of the traditions that say, for example, to the age of 7, they're the king, they're the owner. This kid can do whatever he wants. He runs in the masjid, does whatever he wants. I said, that kid, when they go to preschool, kindergarten, they're going to have trouble because they think that whole preschool, kindergarten, first grade is theirs. You have to teach that kid that you have to work to get something. You have to discipline them. Don't just spoil them biting so many gifts. Allow them to do something good so that you can build their self-confidence. A lot of times, another problem, again, that we have in this culture is praising too much. Good job, mashallah, good job. It was horrible, for example. He messed up, good job, mashallah. Do you think that good job, mashallah, will make that kid more confident? No. Competence makes them confident. When you see, for example, really good basketball players, and they take that final shot in the game, is it because their parents said, do it, mashallah, you're so good? Or is it they practiced so hard, they were the first one there and the last one that left, so they are practiced and they're ready to take that shot? Competence gives confidence. Not just praising them and spoiling them and saying, you're the best, mashallah, you're the best. And he really thinks, yes, I'm the best, but then they don't do anything. Give them confidence. Take them to a Quran class, allow them to read well, study well, make them of the best, give them those opportunities. Then you're kidding, give them that discipline and give them that mannerisms. But if you do not, and that child is a failure when it comes to jihad al-nafs. I remember our teacher, Sheikh Ahmad Mujtahid, used to say in Iran, this is Iran maybe like 70 years ago, how the teachers used to be in Iran, 70, 80 years ago. He says, our teacher, when we were in elementary school, told us this. He said, I remember it. Just normal teacher, elementary school teacher. That if one day you want ice cream or you want another sweet, he says, that day, don't get ice cream. Get the other thing that you don't want. So they would teach us as a kid to fight against the nafs. Now today, tell this to the kid, they're going to try to strangle you and try to hunt you down, for example. But yes, teach them that you should do jihad al-nafs. You should fight against it. It's not everything that you want. That's not how the world works. I want a lot of things right now. We wish all of us, maybe, for example, we're in the Bahamas or in Hawaii, we had a nice Shia island or masjid, island, we're swimming and we had a house there. But there's a lot of things we want, for example. This doesn't work out. We are here in, for example, Los Angeles or something like that. So therefore, remember when you talk about jihad al-nafs, you talk about this by the child, that you let him work for it. Don't give anything for free. Please discipline that child. Teach them. Don't talk in class. Teach them. Be respectful. Teach them that barakatul ilm, the knowledge and barakat, in the blessing of knowledge is in what? Ta'zeemul ustad, in having respect to the teacher. Teach him these things, and inshallah, your kid will learn to fight against this worst enemy, which the tradition says the worst of your enemy is between, right, these two shoulders. That is the worst of enemies. So yes, there's a connection. Those who do jihad, they, in the way, also have done jihad of the nafs. Because you cannot go and do something as scary, for example, or as frightening as, being in the battlefield, for example, and you haven't worked on yourself. You haven't worked on yourself. So the third quality is about the strife. I was going to talk a little bit more about our duties, about jihad al-tabyin, about explaining things, and that is our strife, but we're running out of time, so we'll go to the next, inshallah, tradition. The tradition has this. And you see the relationship. So what relationship was I talking about? A relationship between jihad and nafs and jihad. Fighting against myself and in the battlefield. The tradition has this. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam says, I see, I'm changing the word, Al-Mahdi and his companions. The Imam, we have so many traditions about the Imam, telling about his occultation, telling about his companions, so many traditions. The marks of prostration are visible on their foreheads. Now don't go home and do this on purpose and burn a hole here, for example. One of my friends, he did this. Sometimes you put the torba, you put it on the heater, and what happens is, I don't know if you know this or not, it cleans the torba or more. It cleans it. If you put on a heater, it cleans it. He didn't know. And he went and he prayed with it and he burned here actually. And everyone was saying, oh, he's a hypocrite. Look at this person. For example, he's doing this on purpose. He said, that was an accident. I didn't know it was so hot. I put it and then I prayed and it burned my forehead. So yes, don't go and burn your foreheads. Inshallah, one day we'll reach a place where you have marks of prostration on their foreheads. These are the companions of the Imams, have marks on their foreheads. Then it says, they are lions by the day and they are monks by night. At daytime they are lions, at nighttime they are monks. So they do that jihad al-nafs and also the other jihad. The last thing will end, وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ, and they do not fear the blame of any critic. Many of us, we struggle with this because some of our families might not be religious. Some of our friends, for example, either in public high school or in college, might not be, or co-workers. We're afraid sometimes to show our Islam, to pray, for example, in public, for example, to say, what are you doing? Alhamdulillah, it's much different than it used to be 20, 30 years ago. When someone used to do salat, for example, a lot of times we do it by the parking lot, they thought that maybe you're trying to steal the tires or something of that car because they didn't know what you're doing. Or maybe they thought that this guy is, bending and maybe he has a stomach ache. Are you okay? People would come, for example, are you okay? Are you okay? Now, alhamdulillah, people know you're Muslim. Either they like it or not. But you have to have that self-confidence and be unapologetic about your Islam. Why should I be afraid? Why should I be saddened? Why should I be ashamed about Islam? I'm worshiping Allah. I'm doing something that is good. Those who are sinning, those who are doing those weird things that today they're trying to, ban and get rid of, they should be ashamed. Why should I be ashamed? Those who are committing genocide today and oppressing and starving, they should be unapologetic. We don't have time, but if I had time, I'll talk about this article that this one sister wrote that said, after the issue of Gaza, I decided that I'm not going to be apologetic about my Islam anymore, that they should be ashamed. I'm not going to be ashamed for my hijab. I'm not going to be ashamed about my Islam. So that is how they are. These 4 qualities, let's see if we have them. I'm just going to read the tradition about the companions of the Imam. It says, Rajalun, that they're not, ashamed. They're not fearful of the critics. Rajalun كأن قلوبهم زبر الحديد, as if their hearts are pieces of iron. And we had our ulama and scholars like this. Some of them, people would come to them either from the USSR or other countries, for example, and they would become humble because they would look at the heart and say, this heart is a piece of iron. لا يشوبها شك في ذات الله. There's no doubt in Allah in that heart. These are the companions of the Imams. There's no doubt. Allah will help me. Allah is the only superpower. أشد من الحجر لو حملوا على الجبال لأزالوها. They are so strong, they are stronger than stone, that if they attack a mountain, they will bring it down. Sometimes they ask, they say, why are you fighting against, for example, they have critics, why are you fighting against this, for example, military or this group of people? They have so much technology, you can never stop. These companions of the Imam, if they fight against a mountain, they will bring it down. Those countries, those people are nothing. The companions of the Imams will fight against a mountain, they'll bring it down. So these are qualities that you should not be afraid of the critic, someone that says, why are you praying? Why are you eating only halal meat? Don't worry about them. Inshallah, we can be of the companions of the Imam. So I'm going to review. What are the 4 qualities that we talked about? 1, they love Allah, Allah loves them. 2, they are dhalil with the believer. They are, very powerful against the disbeliever. 3, that they fight and they strive in the way of Allah. And 4th is that they are not affected by the criticisms of those who critique people. They do what their duty is. May Allah, inshallah, bless the soul of all of those scholars, especially the Sayyid scholars who implemented this and showed us that yes, you can be like this during our time, that you can fight against oppression in this manner and be so brave and be gentle towards the believers. May Allah Bless their souls, inshallah. May Allah protect our own ulama and scholars for us, especially our maraja, inshallah. May Allah forgive all of our sins, make us of the companions of the Imam, transform us so that we can help the Imam, we can be of use to him, inshallah. Allah give shafa to all of those that are sick. I know of a 8-year-old daughter of one of my friends who's just had surgeries in the hospital. Allah give her shafa, inshallah. Allah bless the souls of your marhumeen and grant us the ability to see the Imam of the age, inshallah, his beautiful and holy face, and our progeny and children to be lovers of Amir al-Mu'mineen, be under the umbrella of Walayat, and to expedite the return of the Imam of the age with a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.